Hi, my name is Anne Marie Parkinson. I'm a master's student at the University of California, Santa Barbara. This summer, I worked remotely with the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area on a project to retroactively monitor drought dieback of oak woodlands in the Santa Monica Mountains. Oaks are a valuable part of the Santa Monica Mountains. They provide ecosystem services and habitat and contribute to biodiversity, which enhances ecosystem resilience. There are over 8,000 acres of oak woodlands in the park, which are primarily comprised of Quercus aquifolia or coast live oak. They are considered extremely fire tolerant as they can resprout new stems after wildfire. While oaks are also considered extremely drought tolerant, severe dieback was noticed in some areas of the park during a 6-year mega drought. From 2011 to 2018, California experienced the most severe drought in 1,200 years. It can take several decades for dead oaks to be replaced by recruiting saplings, and oak dieback can increase invasive species, which reduces ecosystem resilience and alters the fire regime. Understanding where dieback has occurred and what leads to dieback will contribute to more informed management planning. Unfortunately, I was not able to answer any big questions about oak dieback patterns. Instead, I worked on setting up a framework for long-term landscape scale monitoring, since the first step in assessing trends in oak dieback is simply determining where dieback has occurred. My research this summer answered the following questions. What is the best method to identify drought-induced oak dieback? And can the method distinguish between different spheres of oak dieback? I determined that using the Enhanced Vegetation Index with 30-meter Landsat imagery was the best method to monitor drought dieback. Landsat was the highest resolution imagery that was free and available both before and throughout the drought. VPI is a vegetation index that essentially quantifies vegetation greenness. VPI is easy to calculate and robust compared to similar indices. However, I hypothesized high-resolution imagery will be better for this analysis since there is less heterogeneity within pixels. This can be seen in the image, which shows the pixel centers of 30-meter Landsat imagery, most of which are dominated by annual grasses, mixed in with some oak, compared to 10-meter Sentinel imagery, which has several pixels that actually overlap with the oak vegetation. A drawback of EVI, which measures greenness, is all vegetation is green, meaning there can be overlap with other vegetation that grows in or around oaks. While oak stands have been mapped, the boundaries contain other vegetation. As you can see, there's a lot of overlap with pixels dominated by other vegetation types. Thus, I had to take an extra step to ensure the pixels being analyzed were actually oaks. A two-step threshold was used to remove non-oak dominated pixels, which were pixels with less than 50% oaks. This resulted in a slightly lower oak classification accuracy from 89% to 85%, but greatly reduced the misclassification of other vegetation as oaks from 52% to just 39%. I used a z-score to assess the effects of drought on oaks. This method compares average summer EBI during the drought to pre-drought baseline. Most oaks with dieback experienced a notable decrease in EBI 3 years into the drought after 2014, but oaks with no dieback did not have noticeable loss in EBI until 7 years into the drought in 2018, and they had a much larger increase in EBI after the drought, which ended in 2019. While EBI can detect high oak dieback, it may not be effective at detecting moderate dieback, which is when the tree does not die, but the canopy has opened up. The sample size is small since it's hard to find homogeneous 30-meter pixels with this dieback trend, but the trend line is very similar to oaks with no canopy dieback. High-resolution imagery is likely needed to distinguish moderate dieback across the landscape. A binomial logistic regression using 2016 z-scores was used to determine a threshold for classifying dieback. Pixels with 2016 z-scores less than negative 0.35 have a 75% probability of high dieback. After removing oaks that burned from 2005 to 2016 and applying the pixel removal thresholds, about 3,000 acres of oak woodlands were classified as having high dieback across the park. A couple of fires occurred during the drought. From Google imagery, it is apparent these pixels did not return to their pre-burn canopies. Thus, 30-meter pixels are too coarse for this analysis. What the imagery is actually picking up is the understory vegetation, which is giving a false sense of recovery. A more advanced approach or high-resolution imagery is needed to complete this analysis. While my analysis focused on unburned oaks, I visited both burned and unburned oaks in the field. About 85% of oaks reported as dead were resprouting. In some cases, I witnessed some miraculous regrowth. For example, some oaks that had dropped all branches were resprouting from dormant buds on the main trunk. This just goes to show how fire and drought-tolerant oaks truly are. In conclusion, a multi-temporal approach using 30-meter Landsat imagery and a simple greenness index performed very well in assessing dieback in unburned oaks. However, high-resolution imagery will likely perform better as pixels will be more homogeneous, which may help to distinguish different spheres of oak dieback and post-fire oak regrowth. Finally, Field surveys show oaks are very resilient despite some severe dieback, suggesting oaks will perform relatively well in future mega droughts. Future research should explore trends in dieback across the park using variables like slope, aspect, and precipitation. This simple method should be compared with more advanced remote sensing techniques, such as spectral mixture analysis. Lastly, since I only looked at unburned oaks, future research should also assess the interaction of burn severity, drought, and dieback using high-resolution imagery. Thank you.